Hey, my Legion, how y'all doing today? Movie review time. And before I get started, these are two documentaries. This is not going to be like me doing a list. And the documentaries are the one I kept seeing on Amazon was the 50 best horror films you've never seen. And then I was looking on IMDb, checking it out, and they had something called the 50 worst movies ever made. So I decided to watch both back to back. Decided to watch the 50 worst movies ever made first, and that was on Tubi TV. There was like maybe 3 or 4 commercial interruptions, which was no big deal, just one commercial. It's only an hour long. And I tell you the differences between this was made in 2004 and then that 50 best horror films you've never seen was made in 2014. And I'll tell you the differences behind the documentary. Now, the 50 worst movies ever made is a very poorly made film. It's only an hour long. The biggest problem with it was the transitional scene between the movie. They'll have like a number and they'll just show like a static animated shot of the audience still, and then you'll see a couple things like popcorn thing get thrown, and then I'll say like, "Oh, get out of here, you son of a," and they just play the same scene over and over again. Between you see that like 50 times, it gets very old really quick. That could be a worst stuff right there. That's the biggest worst stuff in the whole movie. A lot of the films are ones that are very entertaining and not that bad. I mean, one you expect to see like they pick on like Robot Monster and well, I mean Robot Monster is pretty bad, but it's very enjoyable. Uh and then some ones I was really surprised with, like Killer Shrews. That was actually quite good. And there were some other ones that I was surprised that they had on there. Troll. They had the first Troll movie made in '84 or '85 from Empire that had Sonny Bono in it, and they didn't include Troll 2, which is a million times worse. And they made a documentary about that movie by itself called the worst movie ever made. They didn't include that. And they include great movies like Blood Sucking Freaks. I'm a big fan of that. There's some of the other ones. I heard of almost all the movies. I didn't hear of Swingy Cheerleaders or what was that, Firebird 2015 AD. Never heard of that one. But I do believe I've seen the movie before because they show that. I don't know where I've seen it before. I think I've seen it with my dad or something. But they had that static shot they show over. Cause I remember that static shot of the same thing with audience members and stuff. I mean, it's really a poorly made generic movie. I mean, they talk about each movie for like a minute, maybe a minute and a half, and it's pretty much you can just read a small synopsis and stuff like that. It's very poorly done, but it's very compact. I mean, the movie clips are pretty much entertaining, but there were like far worse movies. There was a John Carradine movie made in the very early '70s about going to Mars, like Journey to the Planet or something like that. What was it? I should have looked. That's my fault for not looking. Let's see, John Carradine. I'm gonna look right now. And they could have included like Werewolf in a Girl's Dormitory. It's so boring, you know. John Carradine was in a ton of movies. There'll be a big scroll down there. But I remember I can't remember the name of the movie. It was. I mean, I actually had the misfortune of buying the stupid thing for like about $3 or $4. What was it? It's like I don't even know if it's in here. Such a bad movie. No, not Horror of the Blood Monsters. Did I miss it? I don't think so. Emily Graves. No. Well, they could have had Astro Zombies on there. Yeah, not Gallery. I think Gallery of Horror. I think it was. It doesn't really matter, but it did suck. I mean, there were some really bad ones in there, but they could have included that. I would think it was about Mars, though. But I don't know if it's in here, though. I don't see it. It don't matter, but it still sucked. And it was. I just don't like the way it was constructed. Just that static shot is enough to really give it like a 3 out of 10. And then like I mean the worst movie they had like Bela Lugosi meets the Brooklyn Girl. Then now they did have a couple movies from the '80s like Smokey the Man at 3. Howard the Duck, which I like Howard the Duck. And then they had Leonard Part 6. They didn't have anything. And they had Ishtar in there. They didn't have anything past like 87. But they should have excluded Troll or like Killer Shrews and put some out like the Peter Bogdanovich's Voyage of Prehistoric Planet. Really was so boring. That's a good one to put in there. I just don't agree. I think it's poorly made. Now, on the other hand, the 50 best horror films you've never seen is actually very well made. And I agree with pretty much every movie they mentioned, except I don't think they should have mentioned the movie Valentine from 2001. Now, I actually own that. I mean, I like the movie. I actually have the DVD, but I don't think it should have been mentioned there. They could have substituted with a much better movie like Pin, or a better, or they could have just said My Bloody Valentine, or the movie Pin, or Frontiers, or something like that. As much, but this one goes from back to the 50s all the way up to, well, it made in 2014. I don't know how far it goes to 2008, 2009, or something like that. And there was a couple movies I never heard of before, like Alone with Her and also Joshua and Lamora. I never heard of those ones. But I've seen most of the movies. I was very, I had a couple little stories about one. I was very happy they put Visiting Hours on there, which I was a big fan of. And that's one where, that was a slash film from, 82? And the cool thing was, in that one, the killer wasn't like have a mask like Michael Myers or Jason. You knew who the guy was, and Michael Ironside, no mask. You knew about the guy. You knew the character. You seen him interact with people, aside from the bad stuff he was doing, and that was I was really happy with that. Yeah, I'm glad they had Alone in the, what's that? Alone in the Dark? No, not Alone. Well, I'm glad they had that one, but Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, I think it was, a TV movie about those little goblin creatures. Now, I remember seeing that. That was like a TV movie from 1973. I remember in the 80s on a Sunday afternoon, I think around 4 o'clock, I think the local ABC station played it on Sunday afternoon. And I remember seeing it. I was in high school, I think. Boy, it creeped me out. It was great. I thought that was a scary movie, and I know me, and then when I was on the bus the next day talking to Dave Longshore about the movie, and he creeped him out too. And they mentioned it was a TV movie, but they had Trilogy of Terror on a few movies back on the list, and they didn't mention that was a TV movie. But they said that they just ignore the first two stories and just focus on the one about the living doll. And that's the one everyone remembers, but the other two stories are good too. I think first one with Karen, they all had Karen Black. Yeah, I think they were they were twins, and then she was a teacher, I think. But that's the one everyone remembers is that doll. And what other things on there? That one, I'm happy about visiting, and I was happy. Night of the Hunter was mentioned on there. I don't know how big of a horror film it was, but it was like a very unsettling movie, and that was from '57. And I remember on Turner Classic Movies, 'cause I remember Rue Morgue did a story about that, and I always wanted to see it. And I remember sometime 2000. I can't remember 2008, 2009. It was on Turn Classic on a Friday at 8 o'clock. I happened to see it on the guy that said, "Hey, Dad, we got to watch this movie." Back when he was still alive. Richard, only movie Charles Lawton directed. He said, "Okay, let's watch it." And it starred Robert Mitchum, who was very creepy in the movie. And I remember after a while, Dad turned to me and said, "Thank you for telling me about this movie. It's an awesome movie, wonderfully shot. You might be able to see it on Turner. I don't know how much of a horror film it is, but it's a great movie. Definitely be on the list. It has the horror film genre can go in so many different directions, and that's a really great movie, Night of the Hunter. But I really enjoyed that movie, except for including Valentine, which I liked the movie, but I just don't think it should have been on there. The killer looked too much like Robert Ebert, which I thought I'm surprised no one mentioned he looked like Roger Ebert. I think it would have been funny. But I give that. And there was one guy I thought was a little condescending. One of the guys was a little condescending in there, who was the one in there. But now this was like 2 hours and 19 minutes, and he really spent some time talking about the movie, have little fun facts, and they have horror experts and directors and stuff do the little takes on each movie, and it was really good. I liked it. I give that a 9.5 out of 10. So I hope you like this review of two documentaries, the 50 worst movies ever made, which was pretty much lousy. Just because of the way it was constructed. Even that static transition shot, you see the same thing 50 times. Hell, I'm going to drop that down to a 1 out of 10. Because that really was annoying, and that's just lazy. I remember seeing it somewhere. I just can't remember where it was. I can't remember why I've seen it before. And then the 50 best horror films ever seen. Now, I've seen almost all these movies. I know about all of them, pretty much. Except for a handful I mentioned. And I think that's really important as like any uh, younger horror movie fan that doesn't know the genre as well and wants to get into the genre. I think that's a good movie, a template to find out, or at least get the list and write the list down. Because they do give away some stuff, but not super spoilers, but they give some spoilers away throughout the movie. Um, yeah, especially even with someone who had a repressive, whose mother wanted to make sure he never saw a horror film because she hated horror genre that much. She wanted to inflict her misery upon everyone else. I saw it. I still saw him. And I remember even when I was home from the army, I went because my mom and dad were divorced at the time. My mom remarried, right? And she remarried in May of '90. And I remember being home. So I spent time with my dad. This is when I was on leave in the army. I remember I was home from Fort Bragg, Christmas time. For Christmas, my birthday, New Year's. I took 15 days off. I remember there was a commercial for Flatliners, and all of a sudden my mom said, "I hate her on my race." The last time I've seen her outcry like that about horror films and stuff like that, I totally rent and buy horror movies. I mean, I was doing my thing then. She couldn't stop me. And then I remember I didn't get to see it at the theater because it was one of those weird things because they had the movies. They come out of the theater, and then second run movies come out showing the military theater. I can't remember what happened. I didn't get to see that at the theater. And then I remember renting that in Fort Detrick, Maryland, and it was weird because that was like the time that I found about. I rented 3 Julia Roberts movies there. I mean, I guess she was big for Mystic Pizza, but I still haven't seen yet. And I mentioned that in that review for that Firehouse that she had a small part in. And I remember renting Pretty Woman, then Flatliners, and then Sleeping with the Enemy. So there's 3 Julia Roberts movies in there. But I hope you like this review of 50 worst movies ever seen, which was probably one of the worst documentaries ever seen made about worst movies. A lot of those movies are entertaining. Not all of them. And also the 50 best horror films you've never seen, which was really good too. The 50 worst horror movies ever made in 2004 was lousy. The 50 best horror films you've never seen was really good. So until next time, bye please. Emily, your baby.